Welcome to 502 Entrepreneurs, Louisville's podcast featuring local business owners, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers, all who have a story to tell. I am your host, Carl Armijo, owner and operator of Carl Armijo Photography and Louisville Cleaning Pros. Today's guest is Scott Hack, independent broker at Finish Line Realty and conference organizer of Real Estate Distilled. Scott shares with us his story of entrepreneurship. All right. Hey, Scott, thanks for joining us here on 502 Entrepreneurs Podcast. It's awesome to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, I know we've been knowing each other for, I'd say 5 years now or so, maybe.
Yeah, five,
like
6,
that.
something like that. Yeah.
And you've always got a lot of things going on, a lot of business ideas, a lot of entrepreneurial things. So I thought it'd be a good idea to get you in here and we can talk about some of those things and what you got going on and how your brain works and all that good stuff. And
Sounds like a plan. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so you are a broker.
Yes.
For a independent brokerage, right?
Correct. Finish Line Realty. It's myself. And as of today, we have 11 agents. So there's a total of 12 of us at the brokerage. And so we are an independent brokerage focused on residential sales in the Metro Louisville area. And we also do business down at Nolan Lake. So
yeah, that's good. And then you run a conference as well.
Do a conference with my wife, Liz. We have, it's residential real estate agent focused. So this is our 8th year doing it. We'll have between 175 and 200 agents come. In 2025, we had agents from 30 different states attend.
Oh, that's awesome.
And one of our speakers actually traveled from Poland to speak at the conference. So it's a pretty big deal. It keeps us busy in the downtime between real estate and being parents and everything else to keep that moving in the right direction.
Yeah. And then you have a coffee company.
Yes. Do have a coffee brand that we do. So the coffee brand kind of supports the conference, supports the real estate brokerage. So I should have brought some with me today. We give a lot of it away as gifts. So that's one of the things that we try to do to make our brand a little bit different. The coffee brand is called Starting Gate Coffee. And the brokerage is, Finish Line Realty. So we keep everything in the equestrian family.
Yeah, the racing theme.
Yeah, racing theme. So it's a little bit, it's a separate brand, so it can stand on its own, but I'm trying to make it related so people can still make the connection to us.
So we got the brokerage, we got the conference, we got the coffee. What else do you got your hands in that I'm not remembering? Anything else?
Those are the big ones. I did spend some time in the fall working on some software. So it's been really amazing to me what you can do with vibe coding is the correct term, and basically using AI tools to write code. So I'm not a coder by trade. I don't know syntax of programming languages, but I understand database storage. I understand some other things. So I've been building some tools for the real estate industry and specifically for my brokerage. And there's a possibility that some of those might turn into a software as a service or a SaaS, as they're kind of called.
Yeah, and having your own brokerage gives you like real world testing opportunities that
100%.
You know the business, you know your problems, you know what you need, and you can kind of tailor those softwares to fit what you guys need and what you're looking for itself. You're not guessing when you're making it.
Yeah. So in the software world, they call it like dog fooding, like you're eating your own and using your own tools. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm custom building these for my brokerage. If there happens to be a subset of people outside of my brokerage at some point that want to use them and it makes sense, then that. But the primary purpose was building them for myself. I'm actually doing a talk at Real Estate Distilled this year, kind of outlining that process, what I went through to do that. And one of the kind of descriptors that I did in my talk was like, why would you go and take a tool off the shelf that is only 60, 70% of what your need is when you custom build something to your exact needs? Right. So that's what we're really able to do today. It's really amazing.
Yeah, with AI and the coding platforms and all that stuff, it's really customizable these days on what you can and can't do.
100%.
And
it's amazing.
Yeah, I know quite a few people in the area who do that kind of stuff now and are building tools that they're using for their own companies and really liking them and enjoying them. They enjoy the process of coding and building and using AI and all of that fun stuff to kind of get from point A to point B.
If someone is doing something in their business and it's a process they're repeating, they're storing that data somewhere else, then they need to look at that process of putting it into a system that they own. And it's not about data, someone else owning your data. What it's about is you being able to do something with that data in the future. So real world example, I built a tool to replace our storage and compliance tool that we use for our contracts. So as a broker, I have to store all of my contracts for 7 years. And I have to review all my agents' contracts for compliance, make sure that they have signatures and initials in the right spot, make sure the contracts are filled out correctly, that sort of thing. So I built out a tool that helps me store those and also allows me to step through each page of the contracts, review them, et cetera. I was spending a little over $4,000 a year for a tool that we were using. And then starting January 1, we switched to my new tool. And we also now are capturing and storing which title company we're working with, which lender we're working with, and which cross agent we're working with. So today it doesn't necessarily matter, but in 12 months when I have that data, I can then go back and I can see, oh, I did 6 transactions with this lender and I did 5 closings with this title company. And then I can take action on that. And I can say, okay, we're doing enough business with this person. Maybe there's something that we need to do and do a more formal partnership. Or I want to do a client appreciation event and I need to offset some of the costs for pizza and bowling or something like that. Here's my most likely people that it makes sense for me to go to because I have both internal and external proof to show that, hey, we did enough business with you that, let's solidify this with, financial, with help for something we're trying to do.
Sure.
So if that was in a different system or that was in a system I didn't have access to that data or I wasn't even collecting it, I could never make those insights.
Yeah, you can never put those fields in there and collect that kind of stuff.
So we started capturing all that. I've really started going and capturing a ton of new data. I just got through building out the ability to streamline. It's a really small thing, but when I get a new listing, I don't necessarily always know, is this Louisville water? Is this Oldham County water? Is this in LaGrange? It's kind of split on if it's LG&E or if it's got KU. Mm-hmm. And for that one, it doesn't matter as much because they're now kind of together, but knowing who the service providers are for utilities. So I built out a form that we can send to the seller or we can send to the listing agent if we're representing the buyer. And they get that form and they can fill out, here's your electric company, here's your, there's propane here you've got to deal with. Here's your recycling and trash people. We've got internet through this company. And that comes back to us and then we can actually, push that to our client or push it to the buyer's agent so they can get utilities transferred into the person's name.
That makes that process a little bit smoother, a little bit easier for everybody.
100%.
Yeah, you're not calling around trying to figure out who's representing who and trying to get services set up and stuff like that.
Yep, I'm excited about it. So
that's pretty cool. So how long have you run your brokerage then?
The brokerage will be 15. Yeah, the brokerage will be 15 in May. So I got licensed originally in 2008. And in the state of Kentucky, you have to be an agent for at least 2 years under a broker. And they have to monitor and, and do that sort of thing. And it was year 3, right around year 3. I think I got my license like in July or September or something like that. And of May of that, going into that almost the 3rd year anniversary, I opened up the brokerage.
Okay.
And I've always been an entrepreneur. My parents are entrepreneurs. My mom is a real estate agent as well. She's been an agent for, we'll just round and call it close to 40 years.
Yeah.
And my father is a custom home builder. And when I was younger, he ran framing crews as he was transitioning into being a custom builder. So he's always had businesses. My parents have always had business meetings at the house. So we would have come home from school and we'd do our homework and try to get that done. And then my house is always a disaster. My parents would we got to get things picked up and ready because we're going to do a meeting. So I was always exposed to entrepreneurship at an early age. I ran a pizza restaurant for 5.5 years and had about 30 employees on the payroll. We did dine-in, delivery, carry out, had a full bar. So it's always been, if I had to go out and find a job and actually do a job application, it'd be pretty rough because I've not done a job application in, let's just call it, 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of like a neat background to grow up with, especially like with all the things that you're involved in, like my background is quite a bit different where it's like both of my parents were W-2 employees. They've never run their own business. They've never, done any of that kind of stuff. So when I started my own business and, was quitting, the corporate world, it was kind of like they were supportive, but, they were cautious, right?
Yeah.
They were like, hey, I don't know how this is going to go
100%.
kind of thing, whereas I'm sure your parents were like, do it, the only way you're going to learn is to do it and that kind of stuff. And
yeah, they were very, very supportive.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's pretty cool. So
100%. And we're trying, I've got 2 daughters. So, like 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they're involved in Girl Scouts. And, we also do with the coffee company, we do a farmer's market in our hometown. So it's only every other week and it's on Thursday nights. So it's a little easier than having to do like an every Saturday morning type of commitment. Right. But we do the farmer's market with the girls. The girls are learning, customer service. They're learning counting money. I kind of tease that I'm trying to turn them into carnival barkers because, they're telling people like, hey, do you want to try some free coffee? You want to do a sample? So we're trying to, get them into that groove. And, same thing with the Girl Scouts and the cookie booth sales. So that's a lot of the same thing that the cookie sales do for Girl Scouts. It helps teach them, money, salesmanship, customer service, and then they've got budgeting because the cookie sales generate revenue for their troop.
Right.
And then they're able to use that money for trips and camps and things. So then they have to decide as a troop where they're going to spend that money and what they're going to spend that money on. So there's a lot of, like, at a very young age, they're being exposed to things that we're not necessarily doing purposefully, but that's what's happening.
Sure. Yeah. My son is in Boy Scouts. And they do some similar things. Like he came home last night with like a envelope full of these, I don't know what they call them exactly. I think they call them scout cards or something, but they're just like discount cards, right? That a bunch of businesses have said, if you bring us this little coupon, you get a discount. They sell them for like $10 a piece.
Yep.
And he's never afraid to talk to anybody. And so he's a really good salesman. I think he came in second in his Boy Scout troop during like their Christmas kind of fundraiser. They sold wreaths and poinsettias.
Okay.
And so, he just, he goes to school, he goes to karate, he goes to like wherever he's going and he just hits everybody up and he's like, hey, I'm selling these things. You need to buy some.
Yeah.
And people do. And he's getting pretty good at it. Last night he was like, I'm going to sell the most at anybody on these things. And so
those things are actually, last time I did one, it was like you said, it was like $10 or $20, but then it was like, it had like a $15 at Kroger or something like that. So it almost had like one use had a value already.
Yeah.
So it's awesome the businesses contribute and make that work.
Yeah. I think they're like a good deal for the consumer to buy. Plus they help the scouts and stuff like that. And like you said, they do it, helps them pay for like summer camp and like, different things like that. And so, and it teaches kids valuable skills, like a skill that I never learned really growing up was sales, that kind of thing. And, when you're running your own business, like you're in the sales game, like nonstop. And it's
100%. Whether or not you're like doing it on a daily basis, like, I just went through having some health issues and I was kind of down for a little while. And in real estate, you're in the way that I kind of have my brokerage set up. If I'm not out doing my own personal sales, it really impacts my income. And if you're not out doing the work, then you're not going to get paid.
Right.
So that's essentially it. So, getting that early, that you've got to do the effort if you want the results, it means a lot.
Yeah, I think it's great for kids to learn that, sales, like you said, that the farmer's market, the customer service part of things, that's all important. And especially nowadays where it doesn't seem like, entry-level jobs are as geared towards high school students as they used to be, that kind of thing. It seems like that's a little bit harder for them to get into and gain that experience than it was when we were kids. And
what was your first job?
My first job, the first thing I ever got paid for, I was working at a carnival or a fair in the lemonade and funnel cake booth.
All right.
And so, we would make the fresh squeezed lemonade, the sugar water, the lemon juice in there, shake it up and collect the money and do that thing.
My first job was I was a very small grocery store. Like I bagged groceries. I would stock the shelves. I filled the coolers. So there was a family ran business, two brothers, and then there was usually one other full time cashier, and then there was two or one stock persons, and I only worked 2 hours a day in the afternoon to do stocking and do things. And I worked basically all day on Saturday.
Okay.
So that was my first job, and I learned a lot. Obviously in that job, and the fact that it was a family ran business, I think also was a really good fit for me personally, because I wasn't just a number. I was really I was a meaningful part of the team.
Sure.
When I owned the pizza restaurant, one of the reasons why I got out of that business is because of the staff and human element of running the business. And this would have been 2008 when I sold it. Even in 2008, it was really hard to keep staff and have them be productive and working, because I think the work ethic today is just really challenging. Part of it's the gig economy type of thing. Like if I don't want to work today, I'm not going to go to work, and then I'm just going to DoorDash tomorrow and make a little bit of money.
Right.
Or I'm not going to go to work today, and then I'm just going to go across the street and get another job because they're hiring too.
Yeah.
Whereas when I felt more of an obligation growing up, and I think that our generation did, I don't think that the new generations do as much.
Yeah, there was definitely like a commitment on our end.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if I'm going to sign up for this job, then I'm going to kind of see it through kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have a responsibility to be there and that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I think the gig economy has definitely changed that quite a bit. But I think like the responsibility like kind of goes both ways. It's like the employers and the employees, kind of thing. Because I think the employers are kind of, more on the, hey, we're going to do this gig thing or this part-time thing, and kind of, it's like less of a responsibility to the employees. I feel like is there as well in a lot of spots.
I think you're right. The employers probably brought some of that on with the trying to do more part-time employees instead of fewer full-time employees to try to get around, different benefits and things like that they might have done historically. And that did create, this thing where the employees felt like they were replaceable too easily. So they replaced themselves.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. Like as an employer, I employ part-time employees as well. I would love to employ them 40 hours a week, but like in my business, it's just, it's not possible really. It's like, the bookings come when the bookings come. It's not like we have 40 hours of steady work all the time. When you're a freelancer, it's kind of, you take the jobs as they come along, and, we try to stay as busy as we can. And that goes back to that sales thing, right? Of getting our name out there and doing good work and having good customer service and doing that kind of stuff to keep us working and keep us busy.
100%. I mean, to a certain extent, your business is a reflection of the general market, like listing inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So, historically, if I was talking to an agent a couple of days ago, if you look at, our graph of available inventory and when listings are coming on the market, like we're kind of coming out of our slower season.
Yeah.
Some of it's weather related.
A lot of it's weather related.
Yeah. People don't necessarily want to go look at houses. I feel like car lot guys too, like who wants to go look at a car when there's, 7 inches of snow on it.
Right.
They're out there, trying to clean cars so they can eventually start selling again. But for photos, we're always working against the weather and making sure drives are clear and sidewalks are clear so people can actually get in the houses and see them. And sometimes that's not actually possible. We've got to wait for Mother Nature in our market to melt. And she didn't really want to cooperate these last 2 weeks.
I mean, this was like, I've been in Kentucky full time since 2016.
Okay.
So I guess I'm going on 10 years now, right? We're 2026. And this is the longest cold snap that I remember. Yeah. Even to the point where the Ohio River, was covered in ice, which is very abnormal for this part of the country, I think. So yeah, it was quite the cold snap. I mean, it definitely slowed us way down. Anytime there's snow on the ground, it slows us way down.
Yeah.
Just because, agents don't like posting houses on the MLS, especially nowadays where, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, a house would be on the market for like hours or days, right? And then it would be sold. So you could post it on the MLS with snow on the ground. It would still sell fast.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. Now, I think the average of days on the market, is somewhere between 30 and 60 days on these houses. And so if you post a house with snow on the ground, January 15th, come February 15th, if that house still has not sold or is still on the market, then people are thinking, oh man, this house has been on the market for a long time. It's still got snow on the pictures. So it's like agents are pretty hesitant to hire you to come out there and do pictures with snow on the ground just for that reason alone.
Yeah. I mean, there was one you did for me, and I can't remember if it was late December, early January, and it happened to snow that time. And I've been wanting to get it like reshot, just the exterior. And we've not really had any better weather where there's not,
Yeah.
so it's like, thankfully the photos still look kind of like
now,
now. But yeah, we're rapidly, it's crazy. Like yesterday it was like 65 or something.
Yeah.
It got
warm.
nice. So I still went outside with a jacket, threw my face up to the sun and said a little thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I've been praying for snow to melt.
Yeah.
That way I could go back to work, get out of the house.
100%.
So what's been the biggest, challenge or obstacle of running an independent brokerage? Because you're not associated with like the Remaxes or the other, companies that, people are kind of familiar with who spend all that money advertising, that kind of stuff. So, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
I think there's two challenges associated with being an independent. And, I saw this on both sides when I had the restaurant too. I was an independent pizza restaurant. So when I was doing that, I competed with the Papa John's and the Pizza Huts and the Domino's. And then, on the brokerage side, like you said, there's some of the bigger brands in town. And it's not necessarily the branding that I'm competing with. Sometimes it comes down to the buying power. And that's one of the things that I think that the franchises try to help share or tout this that they have, like, hey, we've got this contract for this software vendor and you're going to get a better deal on it. Here's a sign company and we've negotiated a better deal. So they're going to try to pick up create some of their value by their buying power they can do as collective. And then as a brand, there's let's just say an army of people across the country that are all touting that same flag. And in theory, those people are sending referrals. If someone's moving from Colorado to Kentucky, they want to send someone and connect them with their same brand in Kentucky.
Right.
The reality is with the internet is that really a lot of people, it doesn't matter what brand. And you go to a lot of different cities and it's weird because some of the cities are dominated by completely independents. I think Louisville does a good job of kind of straddling the line. I think the cities that have a lot more out-of-state move-ins are the ones where franchises probably are a little bit stronger because they've got a lot more people that are doing those out-of-state referrals. And so someone in another state's helping feed that business.
Right.
There's not a ton of people moving from out of state into Kentucky. We've got a lot of in-town moves. We've got a lot of people in Kentucky that are moving. So, they were somewhere, I don't want to pick a county, but, we've got 120 counties. So they were in a county that wasn't in one of the bigger cities. They went to Bowling Green and, went to WKU, or they go to U of L, or they go to, Kentucky, and they stay in Lexington or they stay in Bowling Green for a couple of years. And, they move to a job that brought them to Louisville, or they're in Lexington. So we've got a lot of people that are moving around the state, but they're not necessarily coming from Texas to move here. Now we have some. It's just not a huge number.
It's not huge, yeah.
Markets like Charlotte, Orlando, things like that, Miami, there's a lot more people that are making their, and it might make sense for some people to, run a franchise. For me personally, the huge benefit is that I get to control everything.
Right.
But it's also a challenge. So every time there's something new, in the first couple of years, I was creating new signage all the time. Like, oh, hey, I've got a new office condo for sale. I've got a new office condo for lease. I do office condos as well. We've got an open house, and the open house is between 2 and 4 on Sunday. I was like, oh, I'm doing an open house on Saturday. The open house between 3 and 5 on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that was new, I was creating new signage.
All these sign writers and
yes,
stuff.
everything that was new.
Yeah.
And, we created a template. We're going to do these brand colors. I had a brand guide. We've got a logo, fonts. And I worked with a local sign shop, and they've been great. So I just started, building all that. But then also, like anything that happens new, we just got through talking about AI. And when I started the brokerage, social media existed. But social media use has really exploded over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now I need to make sure that the agents are doing things on social media that matches the voice and the image that we want as a brokerage.
Right.
I try not to get too deep into topics that are going to offend, because you literally have 50% of your potential customer base that might not agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't want to
alienate anybody.
Yeah. So, making sure that agents are understanding that both about their personal brand and also the company brand. We had to start working on things like that, like social media guidelines.
Sure.
And I think that when you're at a bigger company, there's a bigger push because they've got more staff people that are supporting those people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm the same guy who writes the checks, and I'm the same guy who cleans the toilet.
Right.
And it's just, that's how it is. Now, I wouldn't trade it. I love it. I love being in charge. I love being able to be the small ship that can make a really quick U-turn if I need to. I kind of, visually, I kind of compare us to a cruise ship or, a big, big fishing boat. Like, we're able to turn quickly, where a cruise ship, it might take them 4 hours to do a turn. And we can be heading the other direction in 20 minutes.
Sure.
So that's one of the things that's really nice about being small and nimble and in charge of basically all of your decisions, good or bad.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to, answer to the corporate overlords of, whatever it is.
Yeah. You don't have to ask for permission.
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to. So.
Yeah. And then, I think most of us start our own thing or go into our own business because we want a little bit of flexibility. You find out you don't have as much flexibility as you thought you would, but it's still there if you need it. Like you were able, over the last 15 years, you've built your brokerage up to 11 people. You did have a health problem,
yep,
and your brokerage still ran.
Yes.
You were able to have that flexibility you needed when you needed it to, keep the doors open, keep business coming in.
Yeah.
And, sure, it's slower. It's not, you're not bringing in as much money as you want, but you're not shuttering the doors either because you've, built in that business and that flexibility that you need when those health scares come up, which is nice.
I remember when I started the pizza shop, my grandfather, who was also an entrepreneur, he ran some bowling centers here in town. And when I started the pizza shop, he's like, congratulations. Like, now that you're your own boss, you get to work, part-time. And I was like, part-time? He's like, yeah, you get to choose what 40 hours, you want to work. It's like, you're still working. Like,
yeah,
you get to pick the hours though.
Right.
So it's one of those things, like you're in charge, but your business and your customers are what dictates that you're not really in charge.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, that's definitely part of it. So
the independent brokerage actually is why we did the conference too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, like what led you to Real Estate Distilled and getting that started up?
Yeah. So the conference was, basically kind of the genesis of it was there's not a conference there's not a Finish Line Realty conference for me to send my agents to.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the national brands have their own conference, and I wanted to provide education and resources to my agents personally. And there was a lot of, other independent brokers and agents out there. So we started building something kind of with that idea that we wanted to be a gathering place for brokerages of all kinds. So we're not, we call it, being broker agnostic. Like, we've got people from Keller Williams, EXP, Remax, Keller Williams, and then, a litany of independent brokers. We actually do an entire day of independent broker specific programming that talks about some of the challenges specifically about being an independent broker. So we built the conference kind of with the independent broker as our ideal avatar, because they have less opportunities to do something. And then, we want it to be an opportunity for other people as well. So all of the good things about Louisville are accessibility. It's easy for people to drive here that are in the Midwest. We've got good flight service with Southwest. Our hotel cost is fairly affordable in comparison to some of our peer cities. I don't know last time we went to Nashville, but it's like $300 a night for a hotel there.
Yeah, it's been pricey down there.
Yeah, so we were able to get our hotels closer to $150 a night here. And then we've leaned in, heavily into bourbon tourism. So that's one of the things that if you're not from here, that you're going to come here and you're going to be able to check out a distillery tour while you're here. You're going to be able to go to the Ali Center. You're going to be able to go. The weather's nice enough to walk the Big Fort Bridge, check out Waterfront Park. So we're really just trying to bring people to Louisville, and then while they're here, bring Louisville to them.
Right.
So we do a brand ambassador from one of the bourbon companies, and we do a dinner with them. So we have the people come in, do a dinner. They're able to do a tasting while they're there. We hear a little bit about the history of that brand. This year, we're partnering with a bitters company, which is something we've not done before. So I'm excited about that.
So get some new, different custom old fashions going.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I don't know why I didn't think of it now, but like obviously people want to go to the Louisville Slugger Museum, so you got your bat there. So that's obviously a huge draw for people when they think of Louisville. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, there's like fried chicken and baseball bats, right? And then bourbon's probably moving up the list.
Yeah.
But those are the things that people kind of nationally think about. Churchill Downs obviously is in that list. So we've got a lot to offer people coming in.
Absolutely.
So we love showing off the city and giving people the opportunity to learn something while they're here.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've attended your conference 2 or 3 times. And I think what I found, enjoyable about it, yes, it was geared towards like the independent brokerages, which is good because, there's not a lot of support there for them, like you said, but even the agents who work for a franchise can still gain a lot out of it because, ultimately those real estate agents are working for themselves, and they don't always have the exact same supports, from franchise to franchise. That's all a little bit different, and so, learning from independent brokerages and how they kind of run their businesses and how they support their agents and like what the stuff their agents do, I think they can gain a lot of knowledge and, kind of experience, to help their businesses, from that stuff as well.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, we're all basically independent people that are working in our business. And some, like you said, some of the franchises are really just a brand. They don't provide a lot of tools. They don't provide a lot of systems. And some of them are more structured. But at the end of the day, the agent makes a decision on what tools they want to use, whether or not they're provided by their brokerage or they're going out and purchasing them on their own. And then they need to execute their business with those tools.
Right.
So I'd say that 80% of agents are running some sort of CRM. Mm-hmm. So what CRM are they working with? What website provider are they doing? And then, so we've all got systems now that we're using to try to work through that process, electronic signatures and compliance tools and, marketing and social media. So we've got topics that, that are universal regardless, actually not even real estate. Like I've talked to a few insurance companies, talked to a few lenders, obviously. Like, hey, as a bonus, you're going to meet real estate agents here in the audience. And then we're having topics that are about Instagram. We've got topics about YouTube. And we've got topics about basically lead conversion and lead generation. Those are all things you do in your business as well. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely like an entrepreneur kind of undertone because at the end of the day, agents are entrepreneurs.
Right. Yep.
So.
And they're ultimately responsible for their own income.
Yep.
It's just like, the more knowledge they can get, from things like that, the better off they're going to be. And then, guys like me, we want the agents to be successful because the more successful they are, the more successful we are. Yeah. We rely on them for our income as well. So when is the conference this year?
Conference is March 16th, 17th, and 18th. So our The main content is on the 17th and 18th, and then we have a couple bolt-on activities that are on the 16th. So the 16th is the day that we do the independent broker forum, and that's kind of like a moderated mastermind. So when they come in, we do a very low-tech, like post-it note, like here's what I want to learn, or here's what I want to talk about today. And that could be compliance, it could be recruiting, it could be whatever it is. We'll basically talk about that. We've got a keynote that takes place right before lunch on that. That's about leadership. And then we'll have lunch there, and then we'll go and come back and finish up the day about 5. And then that evening at 6 is when we start our dinner. We'll do that dinner from 6 to 10 or so. And then we start the next day at 9 a.m. It goes from 9 to 5. And then on Wednesday, it goes from 9 to about 3:30. We end just a little bit earlier. And then on Monday, we also have a bolt-on that's available for agents. So if I were to travel out of town, or my agents can go to that event, and that starts after lunch and it goes into the afternoon. So it's like a 4-hour block.
Okay.
So little something for everybody. We're hosting it at the University of Louisville Shelby campus for most of it. So easy parking, easy to get to for those that are local. And we've got a host hotel. It's right around the corner that we run a shuttle from. So people coming in from out of town are able to, fly in, grab an Uber, get to the hotel, and then they pretty much can walk to a few restaurants. Shuttle can take them to the conference. So it's easy peasy for them as well.
Where do people go to learn more about the conference?
They can go to realestatedistilled.com. Yeah. So realestatedistilled.com we've got speaker bios, speaker topics. They can obviously grab the tickets, grab a t-shirt, everything's available there.
Everything's there.
Everything's there. Yeah.
How many years have you been doing it now?
This will be our 8th event in 9 years. So we planned a conference that never happened. A lot of live events. We lost a year to COVID.
Right.
But we've been doing this basically. It's been a 10-year journey because we took about a year to plan that first event that didn't happen, or the very first event that we did. And then we lost that 1 year. So this is our eighth event, actually.
8th in 9 years.
Yep. That's right. It's weird to say, but I mean, that's the reality of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's how the way the world was.
Yep.
What's been the biggest benefit that you've seen from hosting and running this conference? And it's a lot of work to get something like that organized, and
it is. It's a ton of work. It's definitely not a moneymaker or a revenue driver. The conference itself. So if I had to pay myself a wage to do it, I'd be putting a dime in my pocket, per hour, because it's a ton of work. We work on it year round, but the people really, I mean, we're building a community. We've got hundreds of people that participate in a Facebook group that are, there's almost 2,500 people in the Facebook group, but like a lot of things, there's 80-20 rule.
Right.
So we've got hundreds of people though that are in there on a weekly basis contributing. So Louisville is not on the coast. We've got people that are in California, people that are in Florida, Carolinas, and when something happens in their market and they start talking about it, we start getting notified about it. So now the exchange of information happens. I've got a lot of people that I can call up on a random Tuesday and can say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Tell me I'm crazy or that I'm a genius. Which one is it?"
Yeah.
So having that network of people is really big.
Sure.
Building that community has been the biggest benefit. And then there's a little bit of, talked about the fact that Louisville's not a big market for people moving from out of state, but occasionally it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to build that referral network where someone in Colorado knows, oh, I know a guy in Louisville, Kentucky.
Right.
And being that guy, the conference helps me be the face of that and make some of the more of those connections.
Do you guys still have your online referral map that you used to have years ago, where anybody who went to Distilled kind of put their name on there? And
we're working actually with another company to launch a new one actually this year.
Okay.
So we're in the process of getting that done, and assuming that works out, the process will be similar, so people can go on and see it, and I'm hopeful that works out.
Yeah.
So,
what I don't know best way to, I want to transition over to your coffee a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Because we've talked about your brokerage. We've talked about the Real Estate Distilled a little bit, which is coming up next month. So, there's still room to register for that. But, as I guess you're a serial entrepreneur, you've got this kind of micro coffee thing going that you're using for various things, gifts and other things. But what got you started in that? And then, I know it's not like a big money maker for you either, kind of like the conference is,
Right.
but it's something that's still kind of helping you network, get your name out, kind of do that kind of thing, right? So, what are the, I guess, advantages and disadvantages of what you got going with the coffee thing?
Yeah. So the coffee company is built to support the brokerage. So I think that's the best way to, like, when I tell people that I have a coffee brand and I run a real estate brokerage, I kind of get like, do you have three heads? Kind of look, but that's really the purpose. So the coffee company is not a revenue producer. It's our, the grocery stores have their loss leaders, their peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
So the coffee is kind of like you said, it allows us to connect to the community. When I go and my school's PTA wants me to donate something that they can put in a silent auction, like what does a real estate agent put in a basket?
Right.
So the coffee company was something that we were like, okay, we can throw a couple bags of coffee in there. We can put a mug in there that's got our branding. And now we have something of value that they can do. Have you ever participated with another real estate agent for their Pi Day event?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're familiar. And for those that are listening that aren't familiar, it's been really popular the last 5 years. Real estate agents will get together at their office. Typically, a lot of them will do a big day event together. They send something out to their clients, their sphere of influence, and they say, we're giving out pies to our favorite people. Pick between a pumpkin pie or an apple pie and come pick it up the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people do them. Well, if you've ever done one, which you have, I can tell you it's a logistics nightmare.
Yep.
You can't stack pies more than 2 or 3 high without them crushing each other. They're not shelf stable. You can't really like leave it on someone's front porch because the bugs will get into it if the weather's nice.
Right.
And like once it's gone, it's gone. And if someone doesn't come pick up your pie, then you're stuck with
a bunch of
you're
extra
stuck with pies.
Yeah.
And what do you do with them? And really the value of the pie is a lot of people do use Costco. So I don't know what a pie costs at Costco.
$5.99, I think.
Okay. So you got a $6 pie.
Yep.
And I'm going to Costco and I'm buying 100 $6 pies. And then I'm asking you to drive out of your way to come pick up a $6 pie as a client.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's not just about the pie. So I want to have FaceTime with you. And hopefully you want to see me as well.
Right.
But it's a lot to ask, I think, of people to come pick up a $6 pie. So we really wanted to have something that was a larger item of value. So the coffee company is exclusivity. You can't go to Costco and buy Starting Gate coffee. It's shelf stable. So it doesn't matter. I mean, we obviously want the roast date to be under 3 months when we're distributing it, but it's not going to go bad in one day.
Right.
But like the pie, it's consumable. So if I give you coffee, I can check back with you in a month and say, hey, are you out of coffee? Did you like the coffee? Any feedback for me about the coffee? So when I go on a listing appointment, I bring coffee. I'm able to call and check in with them about the listing, but I can also touch base and say, did you get a chance to grind up some of that coffee?
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me something else to talk to them about that's not real estate related.
Right.
And in a business where the stats are getting longer and longer, part of that because of COVID and 3% interest rates for some people are staying in their homes between 7 and 10 years.
Yeah, I saw the latest was like the average is 11 years now or something.
Yeah, it used to be 7.
It used to be 7, yeah.
It's been moving up, obviously. And I obviously need to stay top of mind with people for a really long time. So I needed something that we could use as that vehicle. And then both my wife and I are very community driven. I mean, we do that with a real estate conference. We're involved with the Girl Scouts, obviously, for our daughters. We're doing the farmers market. My wife runs a publication that goes to a particular neighborhood in town, Persimmon Ridge. And we really wanted to build the coffee company potentially as a also larger community connector. So we're just now, the brand's 3 years old. we're just now about to this year roll out the ability for nonprofits, the little leagues, the soccer teams to basically use it as a fundraiser and generate revenue for their group. And that's, another thing that helps us connect to the community.
Sure.
So it's really been part of our vehicle to connect with people and about stuff that's not real estate, but oh, by the way, I do real estate.
Right. Yeah. Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Like, I know it's not a revenue driver for you, but when you get it going more into fundraising and like little leagues or, the local soccer team or the scouts or something like that, and they're out there pushing your coffee as a fundraiser, would that end up being more of a revenue generator at that point for you? Or does it still end up being kind of a wash or a loss kind of at the end of the day?
So the hope would be to get it to a wash. Right now, it's a loss because, we're doing a little bit of marketing expense for the brokerage, but we'd like to get it to a point where we might give out a bag of coffee. It was offset by sales we did either at the farmer's market or, through a fundraiser.
Right.
So, you and I were talking a little bit about the fundraiser that we're working on trying to get started. And it's like, maybe as a company, we're able to generate, 50 cents or $1 in revenue, per bag that's sold. So we'd have to sell like, 15 or 16 bags to have a bag that we're able to give away. Yeah. So it's certainly, but we're working towards that, right now. And the other thing is like, we are operating as a business. So we have a local roaster that we work with, and they do the roasting for us. So I didn't have to learn how to roast coffee. And so it's like we're buying it at a wholesale
price.
Yeah, wholesale price. And it has a retail value associated with it. When you go to Kroger, you go to Costco and you buy coffee, like it's got there's a dollar amount there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's different at Kroger or Costco depending on what you're buying, but it's a different thing going, like I was talking about kind of with the pies. It's different than going to Costco and buying a $7 pie and giving out a $7 pie. So I'm able to also have a higher perceived value because when you go and buy that coffee, you are spending more money.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. I lost my train of thought, but
yeah, I mean, just kind of wrap up a little bit about the coffee company. It is something we're putting a lot more energy into. I've been working on the website, generating the ability for groups to do the orders, and kind of track and have their fundraising goal pages. Basically, been modeling it a lot after the Girl Scout cookie troops. So you got a baseball team. There's 12 people on the team, and everybody needs to sell 10 bags, and they've got their individual sales page tracking their goals. And here's the team's, goals. And then when we're able to do a roast, and a lot of what we're trying to sell is whole bean coffee, because whole bean coffee has that shelf life.
Yeah, it lasts longer.
Yeah, once you grind the beans, it starts degrading. Mm-hmm. So we're really trying to do the whole bean, but there's a percentage of people that don't have grinders.
Sure.
So we want to offer, ground coffee as an opportunity, but we want to make sure that if you agree to sell ground coffee, that you're going to distribute it within 3 days of getting it.
Yeah. That way it stays fresh.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
That makes sense. If people were interested in, using that as a fundraiser, how should they get a hold of you or contact you to do that?
So right now, the best way is just going to be to go to scotthack.com and then just contact me through whatever they see there. So my email's there. They can connect with me on social media. There is a link there that goes to the coffee company, and there's a contact form on it. Depending on when this airs, what shape the website's going to be in, because
right.
It's basically being worked on nights and weekends, a little bit here, a little bit there. I hope to have it actually done. Let's say mid-April is my goal, to kind of get things set up for people that are gonna do a fundraiser over the summer, to start really kind of exposing it to them and getting it ready before kind of kids get out of school in May.
I gotcha.
So
very cool. I remember what I was going to ask you now, because you mentioned you were running, the coffee company as its own business.
Yeah.
How many actual businesses do you have that are you're operating now, like with the state that are like,
Yeah.
their own entities?
So we put a lot of, so the conference we roll up under Liz's company.
Okay.
So that one, we're able to keep that one separate. And then I have the brokerage, and then we have the coffee.
And so you guys have 3 companies as a
Yes.
family?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So Liz's corporate entity is High Proof Marketing. So she uses that for her publication as well as the conference.
Okay.
And her company has a lot of overlap with, the sales that she's doing for the publication. And it also makes it a little bit easier for some of the bigger companies that don't want to necessarily pay to a brokerage. There's RESPA things that they're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little bit easier for it to be a separate entity.
Right.
That she's able to have control over.
Gotcha.
And then, like I said, most of that money comes out and then we send it back out to catering and, event venues and things.
Things like that.
Things like that. AV. So,
yeah. It's always like, I get curious about stuff like that because it's just so much documentation and paperwork and all this stuff with the states and local governments and all that stuff just to keep the doors open and running. And
the good thing too about the coffee company was another very strategic reason. Not that I want to talk a bunch of other people into running a coffee brand, but the coffee company, the state of Kentucky, and I can only speak for Kentucky, treats coffee as a food item, which means that we don't have to collect sales tax.
Oh, that's nice.
So it does cut down a little bit on the regulatory issues that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
I know, was it 2 years ago that you got rolled up, and now as a service, you've got to do sales tax, right?
Yep. Yeah. When was that? 2022, maybe?
Okay, so it's been longer.
It's been longer. 2021 or 2022. It happened. It's been a few years now, but yeah, when they started taxing photography as a service, and then it's whole collecting sales tax and
and reporting it,
saving it, remitting it to the state, all that stuff, and it just is like a huge hassle, right? That kind of thing, and it's.
So that was one of the things that really was also appealing, is that it's a food item, so we don't have to collect sales tax. So from a logistics standpoint, there's a lot of wins.
Yeah, that's nice.
The really ironic thing is I don't drink coffee.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Liz is the coffee drinker. My wife is the coffee drinker in the house. So when we went through that process and we were developing our blend, she went and did the cupping. So that's basically a tasting.
Tasting, yeah.
So they laid out 4 different ones, and what do you think about these? And our brand is Starting Gate Coffee, but our blend is actually called Super High Five. And if you're into betting on the ponies, you'll know that a Super High Five is a pretty exotic bet, and it's basically getting the first 5 horses of a race.
Mm-hmm.
And we called it Super High Five because we wanted to keep with the equestrian
theme,
but also it's a 5-bean blend.
Okay.
So and it's not a true espresso roast; it's a medium dark roast. But we have a whole brand board for the coffee brand to move into bets as blends.
Okay.
So we've got like a trifecta that we want to do. We've got a win, we've got a place, a show. We want to do a decaf and call it Scratch. So I thought that was
I imagine though you got to get like a lot more community involvement before you can kind of move into these other roasts and brands and kind of things.
Both from a logistics standpoint, I don't want to keep a lot of inventory, so we need to get to a certain sales volume before it makes sense to bring on another blend. When we start rolling this out to the community, we probably are going to immediately roll out 2 more blends that we've been slowly working on. I mean, we've got a few in the back of our mind of what we want to do. I do the farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
People come up to me and they're like, "Do you have a decaf?"
Right.
I'm like, "No." Like, "Oh, we should do a decaf, right?"
Right.
So, I mean, that's the customer, interaction that comes from those things. And then sometimes people are like, "I want a dark roast, or I want a light roast." So we'll probably end up doing a decaf and a light roast or blonde pretty quickly when we initially roll out, so people have options.
I'm a big fan of light roasts.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like them better. And then decaf as well.
I mean,
I like to drink caffeine, right? I don't know, but I'll have like 1 or 2 cups a day of regular coffee with caffeine. Then if I want more coffee, I have to switch to decaf. So,
and for the blonde specifically, like, do you find it's less bitter? Is that?
Yeah.
That's what I've been told.
It's less bitter. It's less, I guess, I don't know, like a Starbucks coffee is a darker roast, right? And then it's like, sometimes it tastes a little more burnt, kind of that kind of stuff. And
who knows? Maybe I'm a blonde coffee drinker.
Yeah, you might be a light roast guy.
Maybe I didn't know. Yeah, so
But,
we're gonna find out.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more milder, I think, kind of flavor. Plus, I think they say too, like the light roasts end up with more caffeine in them too somehow.
That's up my alley.
So yeah,
I'm usually plugged into Coke Zero. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely need my caffeine.
Yeah. So, well, that's very cool. So, we've got the conference coming up. You've got your coffee thing going on. You're running your brokerage. If people who are listening or watching on YouTube, want to reach out to you, Scott, is scotthack.com the best place to go?
Yeah, scotthack.com. It's got links to all my social media. It's got a link to the real estate brokerage. It's got a link to the conference. It's got a link to the coffee, to starting to get coffee. Everything's right there so they can reach out. I'm always happy to have conversations with other real estate agents in town that are thinking about, brokerage or just want to, one of my agents joined me 2 years ago, and I actually had a conversation with her about starting her own company. And I thought that's what she was going to do. And then she's like, actually, I think I'm just going to join you. It's like, okay, let's do that. So I'm always happy to let people know what it's like running an independent brokerage if they're giving that consideration. And then, I hope to see a lot of people at Real Estate Distilled coming up here in a little bit. So
cool. Well, it's been super awesome to have you here, Scott. It's always fun to talk to you about all the things you got going on because it's always a lot. And
too many if you ask my wife.
Yeah, you're an ideas guy, and then you try to execute a lot of them too, which is the difference between you and a lot of people. So I appreciate that about you. But thanks for coming by. It's been awesome and great to catch up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.